I'm Craig Ballantyne, the world's most disciplined man, and I refuse to settle.
Welcome to Refusing to Settle. This is the one and only show designed to give you the shortcuts towards earning your freedom. I'm your host, Clark Kegley. Today, I'm joined by Craig Ballantyne, a man whose no-nonsense coaching style is sought after by 7, 8, and even 9-figure entrepreneurs around the world. When I flew down to Santa Monica to attend his Unstoppable Mastermind, I asked Craig for an exclusive interview, in which Craig reveals to you how to design your perfect life through simple systems that work. Those same strategies he shares with his one-on-one coaching clients. You also get an inside look into Craig's journey from walking away from a profitable multi-7-figure business that was featured in Men's Health, GQ, and National Geographic to spiraling downward, battling a rock-bottom crippling anxiety attack, and how he used these exact strategies shared in this interview to bounce back bigger and more successful than ever. You'll want to listen to this interview so you can stop settling for an either-or life. It's not either you make more money or you work less, because you can make more money and still work less. You can spend more time doing the things you love and run a successful business. And in this interview, you'll get the tactics on how. So please sit back, enjoy this interview, and leave a comment with your biggest takeaway. And without further ado, welcome the world's most disciplined man, Craig Ballantyne.
There's a massive difference between being busy and being productive. And if you're someone who wants to have the life you want, the freedom you want, and the money you want, you need to maximize the hours in the day. That's why I brought on productivity expert, Mr. Craig Ballantyne himself. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you so much, my man. This is gonna be amazing, guys.
Excited to chat, and we're here in Santa Monica. Got a beautiful sunset coming out just for you guys. And we had just wrapped up Craig's personal mastermind, which was phenomenal.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, and so we're gonna talk today about productivity, mastering the day, and mastering your time. So Craig, before we get into all that stuff, give us a little background. How'd you get into this and where did it all start?
Well, back when I was like everybody's age who's watching this, my main goal was actually to be a strength and conditioning coach in the National Hockey League. I grew up in Canada, and in Canada we drink beer and play hockey, or we play hockey and then drink beer. Sometimes it doesn't really matter what order you do it in, but that's what we did. And then I realized, as much as I liked training people, I was more of a nerd, and so I liked being behind the computer and creating programs and writing for Men's Health magazine, and then I ended up starting and creating my own version of Beachbody, like P90X. Maybe you've seen the infomercials back when you were younger and when you were a teenager watching, sitting around late at night. And so I started selling my online programs, videos, ebooks, all this sort of stuff, which is really, really hard to get into now, but back then there wasn't as much competition. I had a really great career doing it, but I didn't want to do it forever. And then I had an anxiety attack just around the age of 30, which kind of led me down a different path of like, whoa, I got to get my life in order here. It's no longer working all the hours that I want, partying all that I want. Had to get some structure. And that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah. And so when you were going through that journey of building your first online business, Turbulence Training, in a super crowded niche, take us back. What was that like?
Well, fortunately, that space has always been very, very crowded. Fitness, since the late 90s, so many different workout options, all that sort of stuff. And so I decided I was going to go against the grain. And that's a real big message. You got to be contrarian. You got to stand out. You got to say something that people are not expecting. It's the same way as being funny. The punchlines are always different than what people expect. And so when you bring an idea that people might have like a hint of it, like Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week, everybody knew there was a better way of living, the way that you live now, the way that I live now. And everybody kind of knew it deep down. And if you can find that thing deep down that people believe, but not everybody's saying it, that's what I was able to do with fitness. I told people you didn't have to go to the gym for a long time. And having that big idea that you could articulate in a very short sentence was something that will allow anybody to stand out. Huge, huge lesson. So I did that, and I just went and I worked really hard, and I got really connected. I had a huge network, and I was fortunate to write for Men's Health magazine, which gave me the critical credibility that so many people are lacking. So many people are lacking that because they don't have the experience and knowledge, and they haven't leveraged their audience like you've done. Now with your YouTube channel, you have critical credibility, but like me, there's nothing actually, like, we weren't born with any great talents or anything. We weren't born with a silver spoon in our mouths. We went and manufactured that celebrity, and that's what I teach people to do as well.
You grew up on a farm, right?
Yeah, I did. Farm boy, morning miracle is what I call it.
Yeah.
Get up in the morning, and when you're growing up on a farm, you have to go and feed the cows first thing in the morning. Cows don't take a day off, as you find out the hard way. And so many people these days, they get up and have these elaborate morning routines. Like, I got to journal, I got to do meditation, I got to do yoga, I got to interpretive dance, And it's like, listen, next thing you know, like an hour and a half has gone by and you've wasted that critical time to go and do something. So the farm boy morning miracle is get up, go to work, then do that stuff.
And you were one of the first people really crushing it online.
Yeah, because there wasn't a lot of people, but there was also not a lot of people buying online. So even though there was less competition, there was also a smaller audience. So I was fortunate. I got in there. I didn't know what I was doing at first. I was sending out an email newsletter through Hotmail. At 3,000 people on an email newsletter list who just emailed me and said, hey, I want to be on this newsletter. And my friends told me about it. And I put them all in a Word document, and I had to send it out 50 people at a time. So I sent out 60 emails to get my newsletter out each week. It took me like an hour and a half. Fortunately, I discovered some more automated systems, which allowed me to build a business that made money while I was sleeping. But at first, I was like anybody. I didn't know what I didn't know, and it was just, wow, a blind person in a forest stumbling across stuff until I finally got a mentor, and he took me, and my results went like that.
What was the first sign of success? Like, it could be a number, could be a target that you hit.
Well, my very first sale online was January 28th, 2001. Like, man, there's people watching this weren't even born then, and I made it through PayPal. And it was $60 for a Word document that didn't even have photos in it. So it wasn't a PDF, it wasn't a real ebook. People were like, well, this description of this exercise that I've never heard of, it's really hard to understand. I'm like, I guess I better put photos in this. But that was the thing. It was just like, oh my gosh, someone will do this. And when you get that, taste of first blood, then you go out and you keep on going and going and going. You see that it's possible. So quick victories is huge in anything, whether it's going to the gym or whether it's starting your business. You got to get the quick victories in relationships too. So quick victories, contrarian message, and really going out and trying all the avenues. Those were some of the things that really allowed me to leap ahead, because there's people I still know now that back then they were starting out too at the same time, and they had a little bit of success, but they dropped off. Yep. And some of them are really, really struggling now. They're stuck and they're struggling, and I don't want that to happen to anybody listening.
There's a lot of people watching this right now, and they're starting a bunch of stuff, and they're trying things, and they're frustrated because they're struggling.
Yeah.
And nothing they do seems to work, and they're feeling really low. Did you ever have a time like that? And if so, how did you get over it?
Oh yeah, but pretty much like every day that ended in Y, So that's all right. Listen, you are going to struggle. You are going to be stuck, and you are going to struggle, and there's going to be every single day, and one day you're going to have that sale, but then the next day you might not make a sale. So one of the things, like, this still happens in this day and age for me too. And I've been reading the book Relentless by Tim Grover. It's a great book. It really gets you fired up. And so any day that I had a bad day, I read 3 pages of that, and I was like, I'm going to run my head through a wall and get some progress. Yeah. And again, maybe the progress wasn't a sale, but it might have been a lead. And so there's always going to be something you have to look at as the positive, the optimism that gets you to come back. So always look for that motivation and momentum, because if you don't have that, you get demotivated, and the next thing you know, you drop out. Now, on the other hand, is you have to understand there are the stories of overnight success or really fast success, but those are the exception to the rule. So listen, everybody, the best of the best have bad days. Your favorite sports star is going to have a bad game. Tom Brady still throws interceptions, but he's got his mind right. That's like, okay, you know what? Next, let's go on to it. So be committed to it. As soon as you can, find something to go all in on, like Clark went all in on YouTube. He was doing podcasts. I was on his old podcast twice back in the day.
Like 2012.
Yeah, and that didn't work out. So he had to find the next thing. And we all have to find that next thing, and that's totally cool. So test something strong. And if you're like, okay, listen, I've tested for a thorough amount, no traction, I got to pivot. And that's okay, because some of the greatest businesses in the world were pivots. And some of the greatest discoveries in the world were accidents. Yeah. And so, if you think you're like, hey, this is my path and everything's going to come true, that's not how life works. It is truly a roller coaster. I'm glad we had the roller coaster in the background, because if you're an entrepreneur, you better love roller coasters because you're going to be on one every single day, and just understand that's A-okay.
So I like what you're talking about, maybe not comparing to people who get it fast and overnight success. And I read in the comments a lot, it's people who have tried something, e-commerce, Bitcoin, or YouTube even, blogging, podcasting, and they're like really, really stuck. And they lose a lot of that drive. So my question to you, man, is where does your drive come from? Where does that come from?
Well, I think a lot of it is internal. So there's a lot internal, but there's also this external focus. I have an external focus on helping other people. So even if there's not a lot of money made that day, that's not how I measure results. The only way I measure results, I measure like, hey, did I go out there and did I make an impact? Did I create some content? Did I move ahead? So there's a whole bunch of ways that you can find that optimism to fuel your fire and come back. So I can't imagine there's too many people watching this that don't have food, shelter, love, water, everything taken care of. You know, you got Netflix, you've got all your baselines covered, so keep going, but you got to be committed. So that's why I spend so much time with people about like, let's get your vision right first. Let's figure out where you want to be. And then I can design exactly how your day should look, knowing what you want your future life to look like. And if you're willing to stick to that, then you're going to get there. Like, one last thing is, we all love the Olympics, but the Olympics are a 4-year thing, once every 4 years. And so most athletes, the day after the Olympics, they start a plan to peak in 4 years. 4 years. Like, man, if I said, hey, listen, you're not going to have any success and not a real test until 4 years from now, there's not a lot of people who would stick with that because they want results right now. But understand, this is a long game, and I'm playing the long game, so I'm not cheating my way. I'm not doing scummy things because I know, hey, listen, I'm going to get my success. And I've got a lot of it, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to pass on the wisdom because I know out there right now, there's another Greg O'Gallagher watching this. There's another Jason Capital. There's another Clark Kegley. There's another, Joel Marion. There's another Elon Musk. There's people out there watching right now who just need that one YouTube video, that one quote in the video to make them go, boom, and all of a sudden it flips the switch inside their head. I'll just tell one last story. My friend Bedros Cooley and I have ran masterminds for 10 years now. And we've had guys and gals in there who are like, man, you should be way more successful. And once in a while, we'll just like call them out on it. And then we might not hear from them for a while. And we're like, oh man, that person quit. And then all of a sudden we find out they didn't quit. In fact, they doubled down on it. We've seen people who have just kind of been at a plateau for a year and a half, and all of a sudden it just flips in their mind. And with this one guy, Tyler Bramlett, was in there for a year and a half, and now he's got a $30 or $50 million a year business, and he just got it all of a sudden. I mean, it wasn't overnight that he got it. It seemed like it was overnight, but it was the years and years and years of compounding work. So you're gonna get it. Just stick with it and don't succumb to the drinking and the partying and all that stuff. That's fun to have in tiny amounts, but you got to stay committed to your vision and mission.
I love that you're talking about belief, because the analogy I use with my coaching clients who are struggling and they're stuck and they're like, I've done 20 videos, like it's not working. And they think it's just gonna stay stagnant and be that forever. Right. But really it's that compounding effect like we were talking about yesterday. And it's almost like if we had a crystal ball and we shook it and we showed them their life in 5 years, a year, 2 years from now, you had every single thing you want. You had the money, you had the health, you had the family, you could live in a place like this, you could do whatever you want. How much effort would you put into that life? You'd go all in.
Yeah, for sure.
But so many people lose that belief and they don't think it's possible because they hit those walls and that failure.
Yeah, and the younger you are, the harder it is to have that long-term vision because, if I say, hey, look 5 years into the future and you're 20 years old, that's like a quarter of your life, right? Yeah. And you don't even remember half of your life. So really it's half of your life. And so it is difficult to get that perspective. And that's why I'm a big believer in studying people from the past. And so one of my favorite books that I've read this year is Shoe Dog, the story of Nike. And if you read that book, I mean, everybody knows Nike now. The thing is, for the first 18 years, your lifetime, that business didn't really produce any profit. That guy was grinding. He was calling. The only way he could communicate with the place in Japan that was making shoes was by the phone. No Slack, no email, no YouTube, no IGDMs, nothing. There was nothing back there. There wasn't even fax machines back then. And this guy was building a business across the ocean. And this is 1960, 20 years after World War II, where they were enemies, mortal enemies. Oh man, it just shows you, like, you are gonna go through everything. Elon Musk, everything, Elon Musk, he PayPal, and then he went to this. He was almost bankrupt. He was bankrupt, that close to bankrupt on December 24th, Christmas Eve, 2008. He had spent $110 million of his own money. He went from flying a private jet to flying Southwest. He was so close, and he got a contract from the government for SpaceX, and that allowed him to put more money back into things. Nobody knows, nobody sees the ice, everybody's seen that iceberg meme, right? And we don't see it. And I work with so many high-performing entrepreneurs, and they got, this is going wrong, that's going wrong, one part of their lives. Nobody's got it perfect. Don't wish for somebody else's life. Wish for this great life that you have the opportunity to live wherever you are.
So give us a taste right now for the people listening. They're struggling, they're trying to get it. Okay, now I'm committed, now I have the belief that you're talking about, Craig. What does it actually feel like to make that first, let's just use $1 million for an example. You personally, do you remember the emotion you felt? Was it surprising? Did you feel anything? What's that feeling for the person on the other side?
I'm like Tom Bilyeu. So Tom Bilyeu, the founder of Quest Bar, he sold a big portion of Quest Bar, maybe all of it, and he got so much money. He has this really great story. He was in the gym and the deal was supposed to close, and he was in the gym on his banking app, refreshing. He was hitting refresh, and all of a sudden he hit refresh and 9 figures were in his bank account. And he went, oh. And I think for a lot of high performers like myself, when that money goes in, I remember when I had the first 7-figure, because I sold a business, and I was like, oh, so this isn't what it's all about.
Really?
Yeah, you're because...
Did you do anything? Did you celebrate at all?
No, it's just not the way that I am. I literally own, not literally as in, the way that people use the word literally these days. I literally own 6 t-shirts, 2 pairs of jeans, 2 custom suits, and 3 black hoodies, and 2 pairs of shoes. That's pretty much it. So I don't really collect stuff. I like traveling a lot. But I remember my accountant we were talking about, hey, what do I need to withhold for taxes? And he goes, man, you can do a lot of damage with this money. And I still have most of the money. Most of the money has either gone into investments in other companies or real estate. That's pretty much it. I don't own a car at all. I'm just such a non-stuff type person. I was a minimalist before it was cool. And so whatever. But travel the world. My hobby is collecting interesting people like you. I just like to meet cool people and have fancy dinners maybe, but other than that, I don't need stuff.
Yeah. What's the saying that money doesn't change you, it magnifies more of what you are?
Yeah, certainly that's the way that I've heard a lot of people describe it. I don't think it really did magnify who I was. I think there were so many other factors in my life that have changed me as a person that the money just took a lot of stress off me, because I wasn't poor when I was growing up, but we didn't have a lot of money, and it's just nice to know okay, great, I'm not gonna ever have to wear patches on my pants to school like I did when I was a kid, and I was embarrassed by it. That weighs a lot on you if you come from nothing, sort of thing. And so actually the money helped me escape the idea that I was gonna lose everything. It's okay, now I've got this, that if I do lose my business, I don't have to go back to square one. So money is very helpful, put it that way.
I like what they say, that money doesn't make you happy, but it definitely buys your way out of a ton of problems.
It can buy your way into a ton of problems though too. That is one of the problems, It's just be smart but I think the most important thing is, because I can tell you to be smart with money, and you're gonna say, what's this old guy know about being smart with money? It's the people you surround yourself with when you have money. Right, so, Greg O'Gallagher is a friend of mine, and he goes out and he lives a good life, but he doesn't do stupid things with his money, because at the end of the day, even all the people that are out with him, he's got a core group of friends to keep his head on the level. And the same way with almost all of the successful people that I know, that they put most of their money into experiences, because you can't take the Lambo with you, but you will always take the memory of the experiences that you have.
While we're on the topic of money, let's talk about common mistakes that either you've made or you see people make when you do have that success and you do start making money. Is there any common pitfalls that you're oh, I see this every day?
Well, yeah, you're gonna have the obvious ones of spending money on stupid things, but here's another one that most people don't think about. And it's when you're a person like me and you're oh, now that I got that money, I'm gonna play defense. Don't play defense with your money, play smart offense. Because if you're a sports fan of any kind, you've all seen the game when team gets up 3 touchdowns or 20 points in a basketball game. 20 points is nothing in a basketball game, or 3 goals in a hockey or football, soccer match. And all of a sudden it's like everything they do, it's just like, it's almost like they turn into a different team because they're playing defense and they lose the game, and it's almost like karma on them. So if you get this money, like, oh, I'm just going to hold on to it in a savings account, man, it's just dead money. And you start playing defense in your business, and your business will shrink. And I've seen this happen to so many of my friends, so many of my coaching clients, so I get them out of that headspace. So there's the obvious things: don't do stupid stuff with your money. But there's the surprising one, which is when you get money, you need to be a good steward of your money, deploy the capital in a right way. And if you're getting money in because the sales are coming in, make sure you go and put that money into getting more sales. Because one of my mentors, this guy named Dan Kennedy, he looked back on his career. He's a 65, 70-year-old man. He looks back, he goes, the number one mistake he made was when the customers were coming in, he didn't invest more in buying more customers. Because if you look at your business success in a triangle format, right? And the foundation of the triangle is the amount of total customers you get in your business. Just like any pyramid in the desert, the bigger the foundation, the taller you can build it. But if you're like, oh, I got this many customers now, I'm going to play defense and I'm only going to build my pyramid. Well, you can only get this high. But if you're like, okay, I'm going to break even. I'm not going to make any money on getting my first customer, but I'm going to get as many as I can. Now I've got all these customers to sell to, and you can grow a pyramid this high. And that's where you get the big companies like a Microsoft and so on, and Amazon. Amazon's losing money on same-day delivery, but those people are coming back and buying again and again. They're getting Prime memberships and this, that, and the other thing, and they're spending money on stuff that isn't same-day delivery. There's so many ways to think about it, but just play smart offense.
Okay, so you go through, you build turbulence training, you sell it, you get that check, and now you're doing what you really are passionate about, which is teaching other people and working with entrepreneurs. Tell me about that transition in between. I know a little bit about it, but it's a good story about selling turbulence training and how early to rise happened.
Yeah, so I had the fitness business. This is what I wanted to do, was really helping a lot of people. But I also wanted to do something more. And as soon as I saw an opportunity, like a lot of people, when they saw my success, they were coming to me, they were asking me to be their coach. I met Jason Capital when he was 19, scrawled out a launch plan on a napkin as he's told, that story. And I get a kick. I get so much jazz out of helping younger folk, men and women, to grow their businesses. Because even if you're 5 years older than somebody, you just go, wow, I can shortcut your success by like 3.5 years by just not making the mistakes that I made. So here, let me give you a little bit of wisdom. And it's really great, really fires me up. So I started doing that on the side. And every year from 2007, when I had my first business event, to when I got rid of turbulence training, it was just turbulence training was here and the coaching was here. And every year it just became like this. And then eventually it became the other flip. Now, the first year when I went all in the coaching business, my income did take a hit. And there were days where it was like, really? I wonder how much runway I have left on this, because you will be burning cash a little bit when you're making that transition. Fortunately, the biggest asset that I had in making that transition was the network I had built up of people by going to events, by helping other people. And I was a very introverted person by nature, and I still built up a massive network. So you don't have to be the schmoozer, you don't have to be out there, you don't have to have a YouTube channel. I was able to do all this networking by email, by connecting other people, by adding value. Also leveraging my critical credibility. So writing for Men's Health really brought that opportunity to me. Like now it just opened doors, right? Like, oh, I was that guy on that show, or if you've been on TV or something like that, you can get in a lot faster. If you have a little bit of celebrity, a little bit of status, it's great. And so that opened some doors, made the transition smoother. But you always we'll have tough days. And so I think like, hey, listen, don't think about it now. Just know that in 20 years, this is going to be the greatest small business coaching program that's ever been out there. It's going to be bigger than Tony Robbins coaching. It's really going to help a lot of people. There's going to be so many $100 million businesses that are going to come up here from people that I haven't even met yet, that may have watched one of my videos, that may have read one of my books, that may have been impacted by one of my other students. And it's just really cool to know that you're having that knockoff effect, like throwing a big rock in a pond. And whether you're a personal trainer or whether you're an author, whether you're an e-com person, that's what you're doing every single day. So again, money is not the only scorecard here. There's so many other things, and that can drive you on the days when the money didn't come in.
What's the story that you've told a few times? I don't want to ruin it. I want you to tell it if you feel like sharing it.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Where someone asked you, what business would you run? and you said it would be early to
Oh,
rise.
yeah. So that is a really magical story, and I talk about it in a couple of my books, and it shows you the power of vision. So you might be thinking, oh, vision, that's so woo-woo, or I don't believe in that, or I don't even know where to start with that. So when I hired my first coach, it was 2006, and my first coach was named Tom, and he said, it was the very first coaching call, the very first question, he said, Craig, what do you want your business to look like in 5 years from now? And I know a lot of people don't have an answer for that, but I knew exactly. I was a subscriber of this website called Early to Rise. And back in 2006, again, there's not a lot of the internet in 2006. There's not really YouTube and there's not really Facebook. And there was this website called Early to Rise. It helped you make money. It helped you improve your health. It helped you have greater wisdom in your life. And I said, I want to have a business like Early to Rise. And of course, my coach, who was successful, he knew of that website. And he goes, okay, great. I know that site. You're just in fitness now. If you want to do something like that, I said, I want to have a business like Early to Rise. He said, you got to become a better speaker, a better writer, a better coach, a better leader. You need to grow your network. You need to do all these things that at that point were actually really hard for me because I was kind of hiding behind the computer, sending out emails. And that was easy because there's no rejection in that. And I was very fortunate. It was like I was blessed to have been born at a time when I went to college. That's when everybody got email addresses. That's when the internet came around. There was little competition. If you were willing to do some work, you could be rewarded for it pretty quickly. And I got into some success, but I got to another level by getting the coach. He said that to me. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to go and do those things. So I went out, and even though I was introverted, I started going to events. I went to one event in 2007, and the people I met there are still friends of mine to this day. I joined mastermind groups. I got coaching. I put my giant ego aside. I asked for help, and I got that. And every year I got better at everything, and I got a mentor for writing, and I started speaking, and I wasn't very good at it at first. And over time, I got decent, and so on and so on. And said, I still want to get into this Early to Rise world. So we started a newsletter it's called Internet Independence, and it helped. There's a lot of people, like Jason Maxwell was a subscriber of that.
No way.
Like way back in 2010 when I started it. That gave so many people who are successful that you've heard of today. That was the first time they had ever heard of internet marketing. Even though I only, at its peak, I only had an email list of 7,500 people. It was very interactive. It was like I was writing daily short messages to people, and people were responding back, and they were just loving it. And I wasn't selling anything on it because I didn't have anything to sell. And people would email me and say, hey, when are you going to sell something here? A few months later, after I told who I started that business with, I told my friend, I still want something like Early to Rise. And sure enough, a few months later, he was at an event with the owner of Early to Rise. And the owner of Early to Rise had been running that now for 11 years. And the guy said, hey, listen, I'm ready to sell this business. And my friend said, I know a guy who would want to buy it. He sent me a text message. We flew down to Florida. We negotiated a deal. And it was 5 years, 3 months, and 17 days after my first coach asked me, what do you want in 5 years, that I got not only a business like Early to Rise, I got the exact business. So that's the power of vision. When you know where you want to go, you can achieve it.
Hey Refuser, I hope you're enjoying this interview. My guess is that if you've made it this far, you're at least getting some value. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever thought about doing what you're watching right now? That is starting your own YouTube channel, impacting millions of lives. Maybe you thought you needed tons of gear, lots of speaking experience, or you have no idea what your channel will be about. If you want to do it faster, I'll link our flagship course, Video Breakthrough Academy, below. No pressure to buy this, but at any time, I think it's the best investment you can make to get your first 10,000 subscribers faster, just like Jake did and Gavin did, and hundreds of other students did, to take their 5-year growth of starting a YouTube channel and slash off the first 4. If you want the same results, if you want the shortcuts, click that link now and enroll in Video Breakthrough Academy. All right, now let's get back into the interview.
I love that story because it's illustrating not only do you have to know what you want, write it down, believe in everything we talked about, and then go for it. So one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on is to get your take on planning your day and scripting your day. I mean, you pretty much did a whole day yesterday on how to plan your day. I guess the best question and why to start is the person watching right now. If they're like, it's too much work, why should I even bother with scripting my day or planning my whole day? That sounds like too much work. What do you say to people?
Listen, your favorite rapper, your favorite movie, your favorite Broadway play, your favorite football team, are they winging it? Are they winging it? No. The first 10 plays of the Super Bowl, every team has those planned out in advance. the Eminem's not making the words up as he goes along, as great as he is. And same with anything, Denzel Washington's not like, hey, I'm just going to say whatever I want in this movie. No, it is all scripted out. And if you want to be successful, you got to script. Our friend Jason Capital says, if you don't script, you don't care. So it's not just with your sales messages, but with your days as well. So one of the things that most people don't think about when they're planning their days out, they say, okay, listen, at 7, I'm going to do this. At 8, I'm going to do this. At, I have a meeting at 9, and then 11 o'clock, I'm going to go to the gym. But nobody has end times. Everybody got start times for things, but nobody has end times. Like, I'm going to go back and I got to write a newsletter. I have 60 minutes to finish the newsletter. And when it gets to 55 minutes, I'm like, hey, listen, maybe I didn't get everything in here, but I got to move on to the next thing. And that really forces you to get more done. Stop screwing around on the social medias, because every minute matters and you've got to make the most of it so that you can go and recover, back off, have time with the girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it is that you got. You've got to be able to be disciplined with your time, and you've got to match that with your energy levels, which is another secret. So think about the time of day that you're most creative, energetic, and productive, and you got to do your hardest work in that time. And when you do that, you're all of a sudden like, oh man, I was trying to write my VSL or plan my YouTube videos out when I was tired at the end of the day. Well, yeah, you're going to be frustrated and you're going to really, really slow down and struggle if you do that. But you got to go, oh, listen, every morning at 10 o'clock in the morning, I am in the zone, man. I'm on fire. And if you're spending that time in email and meetings, you got a mismatch in your energy and your skill set. So make sure that you get all of that matched up. And the next thing you know, you're going to be tripling your productivity just with those couple of changes.
So you talk about scripting your day and doing it the night before. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how someone can start?
Yeah, if you're doing your to-do list in the morning, you're already too late. Because if you're waking up and going, okay, I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do today, you're missing out on the time of day when research shows, and this is from a book called When by Daniel Pink, which is a scientific time for doing everything or something like that. And he says in the morning you have the greatest willpower, discipline, and intention. And it's like one of, whether you believe in God or not, it's like one of God's little jokes that he plays on humans, right? Like, we have the greatest willpower in the morning, but not a whole lot of people eating chocolate cake for breakfast, right? But at nighttime, when we have the lowest willpower, that's when the chocolate cake comes out, right? And you can't resist it. So in the morning, though, you have that great willpower, like, okay, listen, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to do the work. You have a greater chance of doing that at 7 in the morning than you do at 7 o'clock at night, because 7 o'clock at night, you got Netflix, you got your partner, you got alcohol, you get all these things that'll slow you down, plus you're tired from the day. So yeah, it sounds super cool and exciting to be a night owl, but man, it takes more discipline to be a night owl than it does to do the work in the morning. So plan your work the night before, as detailed as possible. And when you know your 1, 2, maybe 3 most important tasks, and you start knocking out big progress on them in the morning, that's why the Army says, hey, we get more done by 9 a.m. than most people do all day. That's why there's books called Win by Noon. That's why I say win your morning, own your day. Because what happens in real life? As soon as you get to the office, as soon as you get to work, everybody brings you their problems. Oh my gosh, we got deadlines, we got to do this, that, and the other thing. If you don't get the work done in the morning before people start stealing your time, you don't make that big progress. It's what I call legacy work, right? It's the stuff that can wait till tomorrow. You want to write that book, you want to go and record that song. Yeah, that stuff can wait till tomorrow. I don't have to do it. I got to check my email right now. If you don't make time for what matters, you'll never find time for it. And if you just switch those 2 words in your head, hey, I'm going to make time for what matters. I'm going to make time for the book. I'm going to make time for my relationships. That's so much stronger than, yeah, I'll try and find time to go to the gym. You never find time to go to the gym. It's not hidden under your bed with like your old magazines. No, it is something you got to make.
Yeah. So quick story on that one. I had a buddy go from 0 subscribers who's working at a men's shoe at like Nordstrom, or women's shoes, doing sales, hated his job, really wanted to do law of attraction stuff. So he started doing daily videos on YouTube. He did a daily video for 500 days straight.
Wow.
Now he has over 400,000 subscribers in like 2 years.
Wow.
In the law of attraction space, where he's pretty much admitting he says the same thing every day.
Wow.
I was like, what's your secret, man? How do you do it? He said 2 things.
Law of attraction.
Well, he attracted it. He said the secret is that he wakes up and he films a video every day, but the secret beyond that, I'm like, what do you say on camera? How do you know what to say if it's all the same stuff? He says that he writes the title down the night before.
Oh, that's brilliant.
He can't explain it. There's almost like, of course he's in law of attraction, so he's woo-woo, but there's almost an energetic field that happens.
But it's not. It is explained by science. It is your subconscious mind doing the work. So I'm sure most people watching this have heard of the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So as the story goes, as told to me by one of my mentors, up until 3 hours before the deadline for the publication of the book, the actual title of the book was Use Your Noodle to Get the Boodle.
Oh, that's terrible.
Right? It's absolutely horrible. And so Napoleon Hill, according to legend, went and had a nap at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and he woke up and his subconscious mind had come up with Think and Grow Rich. And I'm a big believer in this, that like when I'm a writer, so the thing that I do first thing in the morning is I write. And if I say, yeah, tomorrow I'm going to write chapter 2 for my book, like that's great. I can say I'm going to wake up and write chapter 2 for my book. But if I go and I open my computer up and there's a blank screen there, I'm going to get writer's block. But so what I do is I come up with 5 bullet points the night before, much like your friend comes up with a little bit of outline. And then if your brain knows that these are the 5 bullet points, your brain will come up with the answers overnight. So there's some days that I'll wake up and it feels like words pour out of me. I'll write 1,500 words in 45 minutes, which is about as fast as I can humanly type, because the work has been done. Now, the work has also been done for your friend and for myself through repetition, through expertise, through knowledge, through study, that all that information is in there and our subconscious mind just connects the dots. It's still a little woo-woo, the answer, but that is the real true answer. And so if you're watching this and you're thinking, okay, how can I make myself more productive tomorrow? Well, write down your to-do list, but then go to the next step and think, all right, how can I make the path easier for me to be successful? I got to create that PowerPoint for work or for my sales presentation. Great. Do the first couple of slides so that it's easier for you to slide into the work, and there's not a whole lot of inertia for you to overcome to get going. And when you do that stuff, that's when this magic happens that your friend is experiencing, and it's a game changer.
It's focusing on what matters. And like, I feel that there's a lot of people, how we open this show, saying there's a difference between being busy and being productive.
Yeah.
And they're not doing what really matters. Those big tasks. It'd be the equivalent in your area or your former area with turbulence training. You probably told people do the heaviest stuff first if you're going in the gym, right?
Well,
do the biggest lift first.
Right, or do short burst intense workouts are way better than long, slow, boring cardio workouts that are monotonous and low intensity. You're actually going to get more results in less time by doing the right stuff than you will from doing long bouts of the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
And it's very much like in your work too. You want to have accomplishment, not activity. That's how you should rate your day. Did I accomplish things? If you accomplish things in 3 hours, that's way better than being busy for 9 hours. And that's what really matters.
Do you buy into the whole type A, type B thing, where people who are like type A, I don't know the exact science of it or how people character assess it, but they're really organized, they're rigid and stuff. And then I guess type B is more go with the flow and spontaneous and creative. Do you buy into that? Like, should a type B person be trying to like script their day if it's not natural to them?
For the first question, do I really buy into it? Well, I sometimes will generalize on it, but there's no value to buying into it really. It's like saying you're an introvert or an extrovert, giving yourself a label. Well, a lot of times if you label yourself, well, now you dictate your behavior just by the label that's put on you. Like, Eric Thomas, the classic story is like he was told he was stupid and all this stuff, and there was the labels put on him for a long time that handicapped him and hindered him. So don't label yourself one way or another. Just look at, all right, there's a whole bunch of ways to have success. Let me find the way that works for me. Let me study this Craig guy and go, all right, I don't like the way this sounds, but let me try this. Let me try this for 21 days. Did I feel better? And all these people that will label themselves night owls, like Neil Strauss, very famous author, he had this article about how, he used to document rock bands. So he was up until 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. He's like, there's no way I could be this morning person. And so he decided to do an experiment of 30 days of getting up. And he's like, oh man, does this ever work for, getting stuff done? Absolutely. Now, it didn't work well for his social life, but it worked really well for him getting things done for his old social life. Now it works fine because he's married with kids and all that sort of stuff. So anybody can be anything. A shy person can become very friendly and extroverted at times. Don't label yourself. Just go and figure out what works for you and have your own personal system. And don't say, I can, if I want to be successful, I have to do it their way. No, you do it your way, but there are principles that are almost universal for success.
If you had a note card right now and you could write like 5 bullets on it of like, these are the things that make the most impact with our Empire Mastermind folks, with our entrepreneurs, these 5 things, what would those points be? Obviously one, scripting your day, planning the night before.
So one is the planning of the night before. So we'll label that with scripting your day. And the more that I work with people who are successful, the more I realize, wow, they really get dialed in the night before. Really, especially once you get married and kids. Like I have one lady who's very successful nutrition coach, 5 kids, and very athletic and trains all the time and overcoming cancer. All these things stacked up against her, and she's very meticulous in her planning so that she can get all her work done between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. to be ready for when her kids get home, dialed in. Second thing, doesn't matter what time you get up right now, all I want you to do is get up 15 minutes earlier. So if you're getting up at 9 o'clock in the morning, get up at 8:45. I'm not asking you to join the 5 a.m. club. I don't think you ever have to join the 5 a.m. club. It's not magic, it doesn't guarantee success. But if you get up 15 minutes earlier and you go somewhere in your house, maybe your kitchen table, pen and paper, no electronics, and you sit there and you spend 15 minutes thinking about your biggest problem or opportunity in life, right? Like how to solve that problem of the $1,000 in credit card debt you have, or how to take advantage of that opportunity that you have for this new business, and you don't let electronics get in your way. 15 minutes a day, 6 days a week is 72 hours in a year dedicated to your number one thing. And that's massive. You might think, what can I do in 15 minutes? But back when I was a personal trainer and I wanted to have an online business, I couldn't get my work done at 8 o'clock at night. That's what I tried at first. I'm going to train from 6 a.m. to 11. Then I have my own workout. Then I'm going to train people from 2 p.m. till 7 p.m. Then I'm going to go home and I'll be that cool night owl that works. And I would go home and it felt like people were sticking needles in my eyes because I was so tired. I was exhausted.
Yeah.
And I couldn't look at a computer screen. So I gave up on that and I said, I hate this. It sucks. But I'm getting up at 4:30 instead of 5 o'clock in the morning to work 20 minutes in my online business. And in 18 months, I had a 6-figure business. I was able to quit being a personal trainer and live the life of my dreams. So it will set you free, 15 minutes at a time. Unbelievable, but true.
It's almost when you set those restraints on yourself, now you have to use it because you, like the same way with your email, you have 60 minutes, you get it done.
Yeah, you no more fussing around and screwing around. Third thing, build your business around your life and not your life around your business. This is a game changer for you because you're thinking, oh man, I'm going to sacrifice all these relationships, I won't be able to go to the gym anymore. No, you got to look at yourself as a high performer, especially when you get into a serious relationship. Because if you don't plan your relationship before your business work, your work is just going to fill the vacuum of time. It's going to bleed into all of the stuff that matters, and you're not going to have date nights, and you're going to lose that girl or that guy that you worked so hard to get. Then 5 years from now, you're going to, oh great, I'm rich, but I lost the love of my life. So build your business around your life. Put your life on your calendar first, then fit in the business. And again, it's very much like, okay, now I've got these boundaries. I got to be done at 6 o'clock for date night. Well, now I'm not going to screw around on social media all day long. I'm actually going to get the important work done. So that's the next thing. Fourth thing is find a mentor. And when you look for a mentor, the rules are this. Find somebody who's been there and done that and achieved what you want to achieve. So if you want to build a YouTube channel, you go to Clark. If you want to write books, you come to me. If you want to grow a speaking business, you might go to Jason Capital. Find somebody who's been there and done that, achieved what you want to achieve. Next thing, find someone who shares your morals and ethics. Because you can go to somebody who can make you money, who will tell you to do stuff that might make you feel bad in the pit of your stomach. And that ain't cool. So you're going to step back from that. So find somebody who's been there and done that, achieve what you want to achieve, shares your morals and ethics, and then somebody who you get along with, who you have good rapport with, who makes you feel good. So you do have to do your homework, all right? And when you do those things, you'll find your coach or your mentor. And then the last thing is to get yourself in the network, the environment of the people that will support you, that will lift you up when you're feeling down, that will get you out of that negative environment, right? Like I say, when you have a network, if something goes wrong, like, oh man, out of the blue, somebody sued us. Well, hey, you know what? I've got all these friends I can go to. They can help me with that. They can help me start a new business. They can help me find the right lawyer. But if you're an island, if you're on your own because you didn't go to events and you didn't grow that network, you're going to really suffer. You're going to suffer in silence, and that's going to drive you to anxiety and all these things. So when you know a lot of people, man, it solves a lot of problems.
That's great, Craig. Hey, so we have 5 questions. We call it the Refuser Rapid Fire Round. Little 60-second or less answer. We ask all our guests these questions. You ready?
Yeah.
Awesome. I'll start with the first one. That's probably pretty easy since we've been talking about it for 20 minutes. That is, what habits, routines do you attribute a lot of your success to?
Number one is going to surprise you. So it's not about willpower. It's not like, oh man, this guy's the most disciplined man in the world. It's removing temptations. And I talked about this in the mastermind today that you were at. I focus a lot on the fact is, I'm actually really lazy. I would love to just be sitting around watching television, eating Doritos, drinking beer all day long. Like, I would love to be doing that. But I also know, as much as I'd love to do that, I want to be successful more. So what I did was I didn't become super disciplined. No, I removed the temptation. So right now, if you're watching this at your work desk, just go like this and rotate around and look what's within arm's length. And whatever is within arm's length of you is a temptation. Your phone, a bag of M&Ms, some other thing that's sitting there, a book that you want to read. So when you remove all those temptations, now you're left with success just becomes automatic and you just fall into it. So that is actually a surprising one. Most people think about what can I add? No, what can you remove to make success simpler?
Love it, man. Love it. Cool. Next question is, who do you follow? Who do you learn from? Either books, mentors, so forth.
All right. So one of my favorite guys on social media is Grant Cardone. And I don't care what you think of him. I just want you to learn from him. You don't have to like the people that you learn from. Everybody out there can teach you a lesson. And so a lot of people disagree with him in his style. Probably not a lot of people watching this, but in some of my other audiences. And so Grant Cardone really influences me because he has that really great blend of lifestyle and I'm going to teach you stuff and aspirational content in his Instagram. So I really go to him. I go to my friend Bedros Keuilian, and I go to the classics, right? I go to my mentor, a guy named Mark Ford. I go to all the way back to Benjamin Franklin, his biographies. So I read pretty much anything I can to see what worked, what has worked, 300 years ago, what worked 200 years ago, heck, what even worked back in Roman times for influence, for persuasion, and what didn't work, what got you into trouble. And when you know all that stuff, man, we're humans. We were human 10,000 years ago. We were human 5,000 years ago. And so the principles work. So really dive deep into principles.
Yeah, that's great. All right, my favorite question, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I would say the best piece of advice that I've ever received is to focus on other people, to add value to other people, to stop thinking about getting the thing and about giving. And, it's give to get, because the more that you go out and give and add value and help other people, the better off you're going to be. And it took a long time for me to get that. But then I realized, I was very envious when I was younger of other people's success. I remember one of my students told me how successful he was, and I was like, oh, that should be me. You were my student. I felt so much guilt and shame around it. And then I realized, well, if he's successful, it doesn't change my life in a bad way. It doesn't change my life in a good way. Well, actually, it can change my life in a good way, because if I make 100 people as successful as him, there's going to be more people coming into my world, and I'm going to make more money. So I need to go out and make people so successful that old me would be envious of them, but new me is super happy for them.
Love it, man. Love it. Last question. This one goes deep. What do you want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered for someone that created a ton of millionaires, a ton of people for opportunity, a ton of freedom in other people's lives. I want to show people, I want to open their eyes up. I want to be kind of like the guy who gives Neo the pill in the Matrix that opens them up to this opportunity, that shows people there's a better life out there, that helps them escape the rat race, that helps them beat the game. Because when I made my first money online, that's how I felt. Like I beat the game, and I don't have to operate by someone else's rules. I don't have to go somewhere and be somewhere at a certain time. I don't have to commute. I can live life on my own terms. And I want to be remembered as a person who showed millions and millions of people that they can live life on their own terms as well.
Love it, Craig. We'll end there, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Amazing.
Appreciate it, man.
If you're getting value for yourself, help us get others on the path to a life of where they can refuse to settle. Leave a comment with your biggest takeaway below, or share this with others.